Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. So today we are going to present our topic about consuming passion, the culture of American consumption, an of um, article of Laura Shams, Malcolm Gladwell, and Annie Norton. But before we going to discuss about it, let me introduce myself. I am at Sulthania Bilqis. My student number is 27, and my partner, Farradifa Natasya, her number is 14 for English Department Literature 2019. So the first one, we are going to talk about you are what you buy for American consumption. Every choice you make in the product you buy is a signal you are sending to the world about yourself. So this is consider the things you do own. Such a question are a good place to begin a semiotic analysis of American consumption culture. Those aren't just a pair of shoes you are wearing, but they are a statement about your identity. And that's not just an unpod playlist, but it's also a message about your worldview. Next, let's talk about baggy and versus skinny jeans. This fashion itself has a meaning that we need to explore in order to understand the significance of the things fed. To find that meaning, we need to look at the system within which both the things can be associated. We see how the some object they not necessarily regard simply as an object can come to assume an array to connotative meanings depending upon the system or code in which it appears. For the example, jerkin jeans, while objectively identical to hipster jeans, simply do not mean the same thing. They belong to a different system, a code that, like a fashion code, changes with the time and context. Blue jeans. By the 1950s, blue jeans come to signify a kind of casual wear for middle-class Americans, both male and female. Next, oversized, baggy, and jeans. Entered into denim's history as part of the hip-hop scene. This is the popular during the breakdance era. Baggy jeans were a signifier of evolution of rap or hip-hop toward its gangsta incarnation. For the example, the King of Leon often appear in the same black jeans, narrow ties, and sport jackets that were popular in the new wave era. American consumption also has disposable decades. When analyzing a customer sign, people usually find themselves referring to particular decades in which certain popular fads and trends were prominent, because the decade in which a given style appears may be an essential key to system that explain it. The new design aren't simple functional improvements. They are inducements to go out and replace what you already have to avoid appearing out of fashion. So there was mass production that create a need for constant consumer turnover in the first place. Mass production promotes stylistic change because with so many products being produced, a market must be created to consume all of them. It means constantly consuming more. Mass production creates a consumer societies based on the constant production of new products that are intended to be disposed of with the next product year. Remember again, in a cultural system where our identities are displayed in the product we buy, it accordingly behooves us to pay close attention to what we consume and why. From the cars we drive to the clothes we wear, we are enshrined in a web of consuming images.
Okay, for the next material is the article by Laura James, The More Factor. According to Lawrence James, Americans have always been optimists, and optimists have always liked to speculate. James started to talk about how Texans would purchase some land, put a main street on it, building some structures, and call it a town, all hoping for the railroad to come through their town. So this is the American Trinity. The first is more, second is opportunity, and the third is frontier. The first Trinity is more. Americans have been so caught up in the need for land and weren't even thinking about all the money. Now that is happening. A growth in responsibility and happiness will have to fulfill our need to believe that our possibilities are still expanding. Consumerism can also be partly to blame as an offshoot of this prevalent concept of having more. Having more equated to achieving happiness, and so consumer culture came to be from this relationship. Although we know that material things or money cannot give us that constant satisfaction of happiness we long for, but it is only a temporary relief. People constantly purchase the latest version of goods they may have already owned, or things that they might not need because they feel an urge to spend money, but for their desire to fulfill this purported sense of happiness, which can be gained from the consumption of goods and services. People believe that more will never run out because there is an unlimited supply. The second trinity is opportunity. James explained, now America has grown to believe and reinforce the opportunistic concept of the frontier, vast open space where possibilities of success have the potential of ultimative. This concept has become symbolic of what America stands for, the freedom to go farther and farther than man has ever dreamed of and without limits. And while this mindset still exists as an ideology of America, as well as how the rest of the world believe America supports itself, this ideology can no longer hold itself to be true. And the last trinity is frontier. The frontier was the backdrop and also the raw material for the strike of economic booms. The booms became the good and also the justification for the myriad gambles and for Americans' famous optimism. The optimism in turn shaped the scheme and vision that were sometimes noble, sometimes appalling, always bold. The frontier as reality and as symbol is what is shaped by American way of doing things and the American sense of what's worth doing. But there has been one further corollary to the legacy of the frontier. With its promise of ever-expanding opportunities, given that the goal, a realistic goal for most of American history, was more, Americans have been somewhat backward in adopting value, hopes, ambition that have to do with things other than more. In America, a sense of quality has lagged far behind a sense of scale. An ideal of contentment has yet to take root in soil traditionally more hospitable to an ideal of restless striving. The ethic of decency has been upstaged by the ethic of success. The concept of growth has been applied most exclusively to things that can be measured, counted, and weighted. And the hunger for those things that are unmeasurable but find the sort of accomplishment that cannot be undone by circumstances or achieved in social fashion, the kind of serenity that cannot be shattered by tomorrow headline has gone largely unfulfilled and even unacknowledged. If the supply of more went on forever, perhaps that wouldn't matter very much. Expansion could remain a goal unto itself and would continue to generate a value system based on bulk rather than a nuance, on quantities or money rather than on quality of life, on progress itself rather than on a sense of what the progress was for. The transition to that new view of progress will take some fancy stepping because at least since the end of World War II, simple economic growth has stood in the American psyche as the best available substitute for the literal frontier. The economy has been the frontier. Instead of the more space, they have had more money. Rather than measuring progress in terms of geographical expansion, they have measured it by expansion in our standard of living. Economic has become the metaphor on which we pin our hopes of open space and second chance. And for the Malcolm article will be delivered by Agis. Agis, time is yours.
Okay, thank you, Diva. So let's move to the next topic. It's about Malcolm Gladwell article about the science of shopping. The study of shopper and customer. Paco Underhill researched certain techniques that retailers use to attract their customer and how they increase their customer sales. Paco Underhill, a founder and CEO of Envirocell, and his clients include Microsoft, McDonald's, Adidas, and Estée Lauder. This is the Paco's previous life. He is an urban geographer in Manhattan, and he spent a great time thinking about walking speed. Paco Underhill knows that faster you walk, the more your peripheral vision narrows, so you become unable to pick up visual cues. Paco Underhill had a documentary movie to know about the movement of consumers. He spotted several cameras around the shop. The first impression of the movie is creepy, hazy, and soundless and slightly warped. But after an hour, it's no longer clear whether simply watching people shop and analyzing their every move you can learn. Paco is teaching his client is kind of slavish devotion to the shopper's every whim. As I said before, Paco Underhill is really understand about the customer, especially what woman wants. That's why he launched his second book with the title What Woman Wants. Paco is comparing the originator example of what is known in the trade as the butt brush theory. When women look at the item, he knows that they will stop and look at the item. That's why Paco Underhill has transformed into a relative commandment. A woman's product that requires extensive examination should never be placed in Naure Azil. This is the popular Paco's book on selling women. And this is the result of Underhill's study. The first one, invariant right. American would keep to the right side of the store. The second, compression zone. Consumers don't notice the area inside the door of a store. Number three, petting. Customers who like to handle merchandise. Malcolm Gladwell mentioned that Paco Underhill and his careful examination of the customer from the time they enter the store and different factors associated with the customer decision of purchasing the product. For
Okay.
the next topic, we'll bring for Farradifa. Time is yours.
Okay. The next material is about um, article by Anne Norton, The Sign of Shopping. So in this material, it will distinguish shopping at the mall and shopping at home. So, and the northern studies have shown that shopping actually causes your brain to release more serotonin, which is a chemical that makes you feel good. Maybe you having a bad day, you can seek a mood boost with a little shopping. So the first is shopping at mall. In the late of 1970s to 1960s, shopping mall was first used. The term shopping mall, I mean, and it became the distinguished sign of suburban decentralization and a favorite subject for a man of cultural conservative. When we shopping at mall, we can meet people in different race, classes, occupation, and level of education. The advantage when we shopping at mall, the first is have a wide variety of products available in one space. The next is have products from competing producers available under one roof. And then mall also have their own parking facility and have a variety food court. And the last is have two movie theaters and gaming zone. When we shopping at home, shopping is an activity that has overcome geographic limit. One need no longer to go to the shop. Shopping at home allows consumers to shop for goods from the privacy of their own home. There are three main types of home shopping. The first one is catalog, the next is TV or radio, and the last one is online application. Benefit when we shopping at home, the first is convenience. You can shop anytime you want. And the second is variety. Consumer may have to move from one to another. The three is bargain. The shop is always offer gift, coupon codes, and discount. And the last is quality. This allows client to return product if they fail or broken. I think that's all from us. Thank you for your attention and following us from the beginning to the end. Thank you.